Hello and welcome in to another episode of Looking Up with Laird. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined once again by Sam Tighe and Harry Trades, the resident experts here of telling us who to buy, which players are going to score immediately, and then we kind of forget about them. But gentlemen, good to see you again. We took last week off because we're all sick this time of year, and Harry's actually working through, but he's going to get us through today. Harry, thank you for putting up with us as you're not feeling well. So that's always nice. Just for everyone who watches, Harry and Sam pick two players every week, and we don't always discuss who they are beforehand. Usually we do. It turned out today that both Sam and Harry picked the same player, and both of them decided not to talk about this guy for various reasons. Sam, I'm going to let you explain why Boubacar Kamara is not being added to the Looking Up with Laird watch list today.
So yeah, it turns out both Harry and I had both planned to talk about him today, hadn't consulted with one another, both watched the game on Wednesday night and both went, nope, not doing that. Can't in good faith prop that up because it wasn't a great performance. I mean, it was a team-wide shambles from Villa in the first half, which kind of weighed him down a little bit, but it made it very difficult for him. And Harry, I'd imagine the reason you decided to go for him in the first place is the same reason that I did, in that he scored 82 against Tottenham, and you thought, this is it. Well, we're very lucky, aren't we, that Wednesday happened and we were able to sort of do a U-turn on that. Yeah, and also based on the fact that the last episode we recorded, I suggested another Aston Villa player who in the same game missed an open goal in the 94th minute to win the game. I just felt like I'd avoid Villa this week. You know, safety.
What's funny also is that we usually record this on Wednesday. So there was decent chance that we were going to talk about him. We got pushed back a day because it would have been before that match. And I think all of us would have been like, hey, Quinny, maybe we don't post this week's video. We'll pretend we didn't do it, or we'll do another one because we don't really want to talk about him. Harry, was it yesterday's game that made you also decide, like, I just can't include this guy?
Yeah, I'm on the same sort of page as Sam. I saw the 82, the game before. Obviously, he has defender midfielder card, and the 82 applied to the defender card. And I was like, okay, big away. Was it a home win against Spurs?
Away.
Yeah. Big away win for Villa there. I actually watched the game, and he was really good, and
he was magnificent, Harry. That's why we liked him so much.
Exactly. I looked on Sorare. I saw there was like a super rare like defender card, like a rookie type of card up for like 1.4, and I was like, okay, interesting. I saw the rares were like whatever price they were, with like cap mode in sort of the back of my mind. I was just thinking, you know what? Could there be something here? Obviously, he's playing in midfield as a defender. Obviously, if they concede a couple of goals, it isn't ideal for his scores, obviously, with the -4s and no clean sheet bonus. And yeah, watched yesterday. I know it's only one game, and it's hard to sort of, just box him into this, but like, he just looked lethargic, and I just couldn't put my name behind that type of performance. Like, and he just wasn't getting on the ball. And I spoke to one of my friends who isn't really into Sorare, but just, knows a bit about footy and stuff. I was just like, what do you think about Boubacar Kamara? Me sort of picking one up, and he was like, they got Douglas Luiz. Like, Luiz is kind of just doing a little bit more in the same sort of position. He'll take a couple set pieces. He'll get a couple goals. I know he's not under 23, but regardless, like, it just seems like Douglas Luiz like takes on a little bit more in that midfield in terms of like how they would score on Sorare. So yeah, I decided that like I just couldn't really justify it, to be honest. I just can't see where the points are going to come from if they don't get a clean sheet type of thing, because he's just, I don't know, athletically I just weren't impressed with him yesterday, and like I said, he wasn't getting on the ball. So I couldn't justify it.
It doesn't usually look that lethargic physically, but he just put a mammoth shift in away to Tottenham, so maybe it was just a bit much. But I agree with you, like, he's so tied into the Villa clean sheet, and like, they are managed by Unai Emery, so they are going to get a few, but again, I just sat there, was like, I can't recommend him right now. I just don't feel comfortable. So we both got to the same conclusion independently. What about that?
So my experience with Boubacar Kamara came when I saw him live, and I don't see many players live. Like, I don't go to a lot of games. I don't live in Europe, so it's difficult for me to see European matches. I happened on one trip over there when he was still at Marseille, when they played Nantes, and he was amazing. Like, I was watching him just like, this guy is really, really good. And he and Guendouzi played like so well together, just absolutely bossing this midfield. And I'm like, Kamara is going to be a star. And so he goes to Villa, and like you said, he had some like really good performances, really good against Spurs. So maybe like yesterday was a bit of maybe yesterday was the outlier, but it was, I really try not to let what I see dictate how I feel. As weird as that sounds, because like, I haven't watched enough. Like, I've watched thousands of hours of football, and I don't think it's enough for me to be like, I know I can see something immediately, but like, I watched him play, and it's always very different watching live and on TV. You just see so much more. And I left the stadium that night just like, he is amazing. And
but he is amazing. Like, he's really good, Laird, but that doesn't mean that he scores well in Sorare. They can be exclusive from one another, and I think that's what we're looking at right now, for the moment at least. So that's where it is.
Yeah.
Your player ID is spot on, Laird.
He does have an extra year. Does he have another year of U23?
Yeah, 2024.
So still time. I tried to look back here at the match that I went to. So he drew a penalty and had 26 AA, finished on 85. Wow. So like, see it in real life. He had a banger score, and I'm like, this guy's going to be great. Looking now, L15 of 42. So you're right. That cap mode sounds pretty decent. Although I don't think the score
you can get cheaper players for the cap. Trust me.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Sam, I'm going to stay with you because we're going to save Harry's voice a little bit. Who are we actually adding to our watch list today?
Okay, so I'll start with my original name, not the one that parachuted in late for camera. And I'll start with him because you actually mentioned the club he plays for briefly there. You say that you watched Marseille against Nantes, and it's a player from Nantes. It's Andre Girotto, Girotto. He has been very undervalued in my estimation on this platform for quite a while now. I'm not 100% sure why so many people seem to dislike him so much, because you just like scroll to the top of that page, L5, L15, L40, then look to the right, look at the price. It doesn't correlate. It just doesn't for me at all. And I find myself sort of shaking my head there a little bit. Of course, it hasn't been a particularly like consistent season for him, but Nantes have really struggled. Yeah, they had a really tough first half of the season. They had no budget in the summer. They lost Randall Colomwani. They spent like 3 weeks fending off interest from Marseille, I think it was, in Ludovic Blas. Then they had the Europa League schedule to add in. The squad just wasn't capable, and they really, really, really struggled. And I mean, there's 4 teams go down in France this year. Not that really bothers you from a SO5 perspective here, because Ligue 2 is in. But we're really looking like one of the teams that might go down. But look at the 2 results that they've managed to post World Cup, and I'm just starting to wonder if things are starting to clear up a little bit. First and foremost, with them being a bit more sturdy, because that's really where their bread is buttered. Like, they were kind of a bend but don't break team defensively. They concede quite a lot of chances and territory and possession, but they don't necessarily concede the goals to go with it. That's really good for defensive actions. And as an owner of Jean-Charles Castelletto in 3 scarcities, centre-back for Nantes, I can tell you that, it can go really, really well for you. Girotto is even cheaper. He sometimes plays in holding midfield. He sometimes plays in defence. He's a really active player. His price looks really low considering his scores.
So this is a super rare that I almost bought at the beginning of the season, because just for that reason, that he's just a very consistent scorer. And I think it was probably the midfield card. Is it just the current seasons that have defender card, or maybe it's actually the new season?
Yeah, I think the new season have defender.
Okay, yes, the new season has defender, and somehow there just aren't that many of them yet. But even the midfield card scores pretty well.
I think there are more than that label actually suggests. If you take a look at just like the cards on rare and super rare and just just flick through them. I think like the majority of the most recent ones are defender. I had a look at this earlier, and I think that might be slightly off.
167 of okay.
Yeah,
that does seem off. You're right. Anyway, something to look at.
Bug report.
So yeah. No, but I think it's a great call, and I completely agree that I think he's one of those players that you're hesitant because like the upside isn't necessarily there, but like I guess he's an 86 is pretty high. So maybe it's just completely false there, but it just feels like one of those players that's kind of overlooked, and for the amount of attention that Albin Lafont gets because he's a U23 goalkeeper, you would think that like the players around him, not that they're U23 also, but like there should be more attention on guys like this. And Giroto is definitely one that feels like he just snuck by, because I agree that price for these scores and the consistency, like he's obviously locked in, it should be higher.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, a part of this is that I'm buying into not just like him, but like I'm buying into the team being better. Yeah. So like I can absolutely understand hesitancy around him and around the others in this team based on the first half of their season, but the schedule will clear up a little bit. They did get to the latter stages of Europe, but obviously, they don't have to deal with like 6 games dumped into, October. A team like Nantes cannot survive Saturday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday. It just can't do it. Yeah. And they all struggled, but it clears up a little bit from here. I really hope they can get back to their best and what they're good at. And I'm kind of buying into the team stock. So I'm looking at a way to kind of maximize that on a player basis. And he is, I think, the best way to do it.
Yeah, I love it. Mr. Trades?
Thank you. No, I really like that pick, actually, to be honest, Sam.
He's too old for you, mate.
He is too old for me. But yeah, he's been one of those like OG type of Sorare player. Like he's always done okay, never like ridiculous. But yeah, it seems like this season he's really just ramped up those peaks somewhat. But yeah, I'm digressing. My first player today is a Noni Madueke, whatever way. Madueke for PSV Eindhoven in the Eredivisie. Yeah, interesting one, because like I'm looking down at his scores in the last sort of like year or so, and like there's a lot of DMPs, right? Somebody that's really struggled with injuries, which is obviously a risk with every player, but some players more than others for whatever reason are just more prone to injury. But yeah, with the whole, Gakpo's just moved on, and don't get me wrong, they play in different positions. One's a left winger really, and Noni's more of a right winger, likes to cut in on his left foot. But somebody that like I just feel like with Cherokee, not that I've picked Cherokee here, but like I just feel like their time's just bound to sort of come eventually, and it feels that way with Noni. I mean, watching him play, he's a very silky sort of right winger. Like I said, an amazing left foot. He's physical. He's scored goals in the past. Like I know his L15, 5 and 40 won't suggest much in terms of green scores, but yeah, a player that I really do see a lot of potential in. Score-wise in the last sort of couple of games, there's nothing much to look at. There's a goal as a substitute. There's a 21 AA in there. There's a 12 AA. Other than that, a few substitute appearances off the bench. But I do just feel like with the Gakpo sort of cloud gone, I just really feel like that this kid could really shine now in the second half of the season. He's not somebody that I think is like massively like stupidly cheap necessarily. Not many under 23 forwards who play for PSV are going to be, especially English, abroad, point to prove. I think I'm good. My bet is we'll see some really nice green scores with him in the next sort of couple of games. I'm looking at the fixtures: Sparta, Fortuna, Vitesse, Emmen, and Go Ahead in the next 5. 3 of them are at home. I'd be shocked if I didn't see like 4 decisives in those games. Personally, he might outdo it. I think he could potentially go over 5 for 5 personally in those fixtures specifically.
Set the bar nice and low, Harry. Yeah, just something nice and achievable. Yeah.
Can you ask for better fixtures? I mean, really?
I will
probably
say that,
not, if we're being honest.
So like I don't play U23 anymore, but if Cody Gakpo hadn't transferred and I saw this upcoming schedule, I'd be like, I'm just not going to play anymore because I didn't have one. Is there a possibility that they move Xavi Simons to the other side so that they can fit Madueke in?
I don't know. I think hasn't Xavi been playing more like centrally, as far as I'm aware? Yeah, I think he's been playing in the 10 more than he has out wide. So I think they'll be playing two pivots. Wimmer will probably play next to Sangare. Just looking at this, I imagine, and then I know you, like this shows that Simons did play on the wing, but I don't think he's definitely not. I wouldn't say he's suited to that position. Obviously, I guess he obviously can play it, but I think we'll see Wimmer drop back with Sangare. I imagine we'll see whoever up front, De Jong, and then Simons in the 10, Madueke on the right, and then I guess El Ghazi on the left.
El Ghazi on the left, probably. Yeah. I mean, this is it, man. Like, you don't need the backlog of scores to prove a hypothesis, and that's part of what we're doing here. I'm with you. Like, it's basically a next man up thing. Like, Gakpo is gone. Who do they already have? They have Madueke. He's really good. They know that he's performed in the past. It's been a while because of injuries. It's his time to shine and step up and be like the alpha in this attack. Like, it just is. And I think you can see the market kind of reflecting that theory. Yeah. I'm with you, Harry. I agree. I think this is a timely pickup. I think this is his time to step up.
It does feel like one of those situations where the prices run up because of the expectation, but if he actually gets that 5 and 5 like Harry's guaranteeing, I mean, surely the price goes. I mean, we know how the market responds to things like that. You know, even though we've seen the run up in price. I mean, the rare is like touching 0.9 at this point.
Okay. He's not cheap. He's definitely not cheap.
But how hard is under 21? How hard is under 23 forward to fill?
Probably the hardest. Yeah. I would say the hardest, especially a one with eligibility like he has at 20. Like, you know, I have a Jasper Carlson who's 24. Like, the better guys, Jota, Mbappe, the better guys, Gakpo, are all a bit older for the most part. So I do think he falls into a category where, like, he could be really good in this moment, as long as, you know, barring any injuries, but you've got him for like 3 and a half seasons, basically.
This is maybe it's a little early, although I've seen people talk about it, that they're starting to pull the whole, like, when do I get out of my U23s that age out? Because obviously, once if you really want to focus on U23s, then like holding on to these guys until the bitter end doesn't always work out for you. We did. Somebody actually asked me about this previously. We did one of the Sorare Data newsletters went into like price movements on just those types of players, like what happens when they lose U23, and there's no like tried and true, this is when you should sell, and they all go down. Like the big outlier was actually Nkunku, who lost U23, and then his price like almost doubled because they were like,
better,
well, what is the price for the best player in the Bundesliga? You know, like, so there's always like things like that. But you're right, like people are going to start looking at the forwards, particularly, that don't age out, because like you mentioned, there's so many of the elite ones are leaving. I think Jens Odegaard's another one that came to mind that I know he's aging out too. So like, I like it.
Yeah.
Back to you, Mr. Tighe.
Yeah. So do you want to hear who parachutes in place of Boubacar Kamara this morning, or this afternoon, I should say? I basically came off and just did the End Product podcast with Quinny and Stish. Had about 35 minutes to eat a chicken sandwich and find a replacement for Boubacar Kamara, and somehow I was successful. I did this by looking through my gallery and looking at some of the basically just the cheapest players that I've got, and to see if anyone felt completely out, just didn't feel right. And I actually
needed to pump on the show.
Yeah, something like that. Kevin Wimmer at Rapid Vienna. I'm sure you'll all remember him from his ill-fated time at Spurs. This argument is pretty simple. His price is laughably low. And obviously, I can understand that, you know, the recent scores don't look good. He's had an injury and whatever, I get it. But I can explain away some of the scores that he's had recently, and it will make you think, wow, for that price, what the hell is going on? Basically, in the summer, Rapid Vienna had to start playing Europa qualifiers in July. So they were playing like Thursday, Sunday from July straight off the bat. And it looked pretty tiring. Wimmer got put in the you play in midweek in Europe section. He didn't play in the Austrian Bundesliga very much for the first couple of weeks. So he's got 3 orange scores before his little run of injuries. And 2 of them are just late sub appearances in the league because he'd been playing midweek. The other ones are red. It happens. So the 3 oranges there are kind of like, they're pretty explainable, really.
Sure.
He was a sub and he was being used in Europe. They didn't make it into Europe. So then he went back into the team and he posted 2 scores in the league, a 74 against Altash and a 45 in a 3-1 loss to Wolfsberger. And then he got injured. Fair enough. But he's back now. He's been playing in the break. He's been playing the friendlies. You can go on SofaScore and you can see him in the team. So you take a look at some of the heights he can hit. You consider the fact that he plays for, on paper, one of the better Austrian teams in the league. And then you look at his price. He's less than $1 in limited. And he's like 20 quid in rare. It is outrageously cheap. And look at the L15. He comes back in February. Cap mode kicks in February. It's a £20 rare that could well score 50 or 60 or 70. It's going to cost you about 39 in the L15. This is a player who will cost you less than $1 in limited and you can bring in for limited cap. Like, he's fit again. He's good. This is a ridiculously depressed price.
So this is one of those players that I'm glad we don't do this live, because I should go buy one of these.
Oh, right. I thought you were going to tell me he's like broken his leg this morning.
No. No. It's me buying before the video comes out. So
well, I saw this and I quickly bought a limited before we started. I already own the rare and I quickly bought a limited for 65 pence.
Wow.
That's how you vertical stack right there for
right
26
there.
Combined. Wow. I think so. First off, this is like exactly the type of player that comes up on this show. Like you can look at the stats all you want, and it just doesn't tell the story of like how he was playing in the Europa qualifiers. As somebody who built a full, maybe it wasn't a full Rapid Vienna stack, and then saw them not make Europe after the qualifying, was really just a kick in the nuts. But
full Rapid Vienna stack. That's how you know Sorare got you in its grips.
So it was a U23 stack too. So I had to make sure it was like the most expensive possible way to get European exposure and then not get it. But anyway, so I think, like I said, it's exactly the type of player that L15 is perfect for cap mode. And like the random substitute appearances are actually helpful because it like keeps the L15 low. That's one of the weird things that have picked up from NBA when a player has like a really bad game. You're like, oh no, this is good because now the L10 is low. And like, we're going to start saying this in football that like guys who like may not always start and then they come on and you're like, yes, great. Lose possession a few times because I didn't play you this week, bang out a 22, and then the L15 comes down. And it's really just like, we're going to start analyzing players of what their L15s are when they start, as opposed to what it is overall. And like, those are going to be like the easy, effectively like cheat codes. And so Wimmer seems to fit that like perfectly. Like we're looking at, the past year, or I mean, even an L15 of 38. But if you take like literally his last 15 where he starts, within that, and it's like now we're at 48, and so it's just like these are the ways that you are going to play cap mode, and Wimmer fits it.
This is it. Yeah,
just give me 20 of these guys.
Yeah, I need to find a few more. I need to find a goalkeeper for $20, and yeah, there's a few of those. We'll need to find a few more. In fact, I've got a little short list that's pretty much dedicated to this, and I think we'll get to it closer to the time. But MLS returning in like late February, just sort of like 25 days roughly after the cap mode kicks in, you can already go to the MLS market and use the scores that will not change until February 25th-ish. And you can find a player who may have an L15 of 38, 40, who you know is going to start the first game. And that's you're in. That's where you need to be. So I'll probably present a few of those in the coming weeks as we get a little bit closer. But for now, you just knock it 1 month further back. You know, Austria returns February 5th, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely perfect for this. Yeah, he should be on the screen there for Wimmer.
Oh yeah, that says Feb 10th. That's actually
10th.
much sooner than I was expecting. As somebody who had like a few Austria players, I just expected them to come back in like August and just be like, all right, I'll just never see this card again.
They only play 10 games a year, yeah.
Like it normally felt long, and then the World Cup feel like it delayed it. And so, yeah, you got to knock off the dust on those cards. But yeah. The floor right now is 75 cents. You win $5 for the limited threshold. Like it's,
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Harry, why don't you finish us off here today?
I'll finish us off, lads, with a striker who's making a little bit of noise, I guess, in the French league for Lens, and that is Loïs Openda. Belgium national team, under 23 until 2024. Most recently scored and got an assist in a 3-1 win at home to PSG on the weekend. Before that, obviously, he was at the World Cup, made a few substitute appearances. I thought he looked sharp, actually, in the games that I sort of watched of Belgium, even though collectively they weren't they just weren't it at all. And I just feel like he's somebody that, like referencing that friend that I mentioned about the Boubacar Kamara, Douglas Luiz thing, he was a big Openda fan at Vitesse, and I'll be honest, I was a little bit lazy in my sort of scouting of him, in the sense like I didn't probably watch enough of him. I knew he scored every week. I actually owned an Openda card at one point, but I didn't realize how sort of effective he can be. He's got pace, as Sam sort of referenced it early off air, but pace to burn, like ridiculously. Very physical striker, nice left foot, and somebody who I think can basically go on another little streak. Looking at the graph we got on the screen right now, there's like a nice little streak of, what's that, game week 254 to sort of 302, where there's just a lot of greens, meaning he's either scoring or assisting, right? And that's what you want from your forwards. If they're not doing that, there's a problem. You aren't going to win things, unfortunately. But they come at a price. I'm not saying he's ridiculously cheap. He's basically half the price of Noni. Obviously a little bit older. There's other factors in play. But Lens are really good right now. They're scoring goals. He scored a hat-trick against Toulouse off the bench in game week 318. Quite surprised to see a couple substitute appearances after that. I don't really understand how that sort of works after you've scored a hat-trick. But regardless, somebody who I just fancy, again, going off the sort of next 5 fixtures, like with Noni. Strasbourg, Auxerre at home, Troyes away, Nice at home, I guess not a gimme, and then Brest away. Like, again, can you really ask for 5 better fixtures in a specific league? I don't know if you can. I fancy him to go on another little streak similar to Noni. Like I said, he's not like a 0.1 rare forward, this, value for money. I think he 0.3 maybe? Yeah, 0.348 or whatever it is on the top right of that screen there. And then $90 for a limited. You've got utility for another year and a half of under 23, of course, and then whatever happens after that, if you decide to keep him or whatever. But somebody who I really rate, and I think he can go on a nice little streak of goal scoring.
Is that like 5 goals in 5 games?
Minimum.
I think. No, I'm gonna say Noni.
It's all right.
No, it's fine. I'm gonna say Noni gets more decisives in those 5, but it wouldn't surprise me if we saw 3 from Openda. If that's enough, I don't know. But yeah, I would say 3 and 5 would be my goal for him.
Okay. So the funny thing, how you were like, the home against Nice is like not the best of matchups, as he just had 2 decisives home against PSG. So like,
true.
Not to say he's matchup proof or whatnot.
No.
He's also kind of a funny player in terms of Sorare, because if you told me he was 30, I'd believe you, because he's been on the platform for he has 4 years of cards. And he still has another year of U23 eligibility. Like, it's wild.
It is.
He's one of these players that whenever he scores, it feels like all the Sorare OGs are like, oh my gosh, look who scored. And I'm like, what? Why would you have this guy? And it's like, oh, because you guys all got him for 12 cents the first season that there were Sorare cards.
Yeah.
But literally, these are first year Sorare cards
Jesus.
And he's still
Fantastic.
here somehow.
They look
What a
terrible
beautiful
in a
card.
good way.
I do notice
Yeah.
that the ages are different. There's surely there's like a story here that he initially had 19 on his age, and then they moved it to 18.
Oh,
I'll have to
That's
ask.
interesting.
it's called a
Yeah.
typo.
Yeah, I'll ask one of you. I'm sure all of the OGs are like, oh yeah, I remember that when they did this, blah blah blah. Yeah, 19 on the next cards.
Well, if there's a misprint, that makes him even more collector's item, doesn't it?
There you go.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like he was one of these players that when he went to Ligue 1, it was kind of like, oh, maybe we won't ever hear from him again.
Mhm.
Just like that's what happens. Like we have these like great challenger U23 forwards. We get all excited, and then they're like, oh, okay, good luck with your transfer. I will try to sell you now. But it seems like he's getting enough run. The problem usually is that these guys kind of stop playing. And he isn't. So, or he is playing, excuse me. We don't have that issue. At least, well, I guess if you take out the, let me take out the World Cup things. There we go.
Yeah, always plays.
Always plays. Always is doing a great job of keeping that L15 down so that when he does play, he's an elite one. Although
yeah, he could be a decent shout for that.
Bench, yeah.
New age thinking.
New age thinking.
Like, honestly, I think this is going to be a new way to think of things, though. Like the cap mode, which people who play NBA are like more familiar with it. And so it's easier to kind of like move from there. But this is like all you're looking for are players who are better than their L15 for the cap mode. And the L15 is just here's what they've done in all instances in the last 15 games. But we know that like the upcoming matchup is not the same as what has happened in the last 15. And so you have these situations where, yes, a guy's been on the bench a lot. And then if he's, he has an L15 of 30 and they're like, well, he's starting. Well, now he's at 35 and he's already like beating his cap. You just have to hope he doesn't, give away possession and all that stuff and get yellow cards. But whatever it is, like that's going to be the key to the cap mode in every scarcity. And so Openda, at least now, his L15 will skyrocket after this 3 to 5 decisives in the next 3 to 5 games. But yeah, it fits really well. That's all. Do you guys have anything else to add?
No, I'm just looking forward to all these goals from Noni Madueke.
Yeah.
We're going to be fan of his, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're just going to make a lot of money betting on anytime goal scorer props. That's all. It'll be perfect. Anyway, if you guys have enjoyed this video, if you could please hit the like button below. If you haven't subscribed to Sorare TV, please do so. That's where this video is. There's going to be a lot more content coming out. There's Major League Sorare, which is going to be a weekly video talking about MLS, which is being done by two very good friends of mine, Trip and B, and I think he goes by Crypto Kicks now. So Dan and Skylar are really good. Skylar knows Major League Soccer like better than anyone I've ever met. And so he is a former MLS fantasy champion, like the league's official fantasy game. He has won it, I think, multiple times actually. He does some writing for MLS. Actually, is it MLS.com? MajorLeagueSoccer.com, whatever the MLS official website is.
MLS
Skylar
Soccer, isn't it? Yeah.
So definitely check that out. And then I believe there's going to be a lot more, cap mode content, and we're going to have specific Champion Europe, Challenger Europe stuff for cap mode as well. So check all of that out. If you have not liked this watch list, please do so over at Sorare Data. And then every time we add players to the list, we have it here in the notes so you can see kind of where we were. As you can see, Sam was telling us back in October to pick up Casemiro, and every time somebody on this list scores or something, we're like, oh,
yeah, we put it in the group. Yay!
So check it out.
In that sense, then, can I just take the opportunity to pour one out for my boy Callum O'Hare, who unfortunately has torn his ACL. He came back from injury. He bagged a couple of decisives. He was looking good. He's just been hit by the worst luck. So Unfortunately, a cruel reminder that we do all the research in the world and we do everything we can. As Sorare players, we always do, but football's a bit of a bitch sometimes.
A real killer. So yes, our thoughts with young Mr. O'Hare as he recovers from his injury, and hopefully he's just back on this list at another time because he's just banging dismisses left and right. That's all.
He just really wants to be on Looking Up again.
That's right. It's an honor bestowed to few players, and so it'll be a special one. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us, and good luck out there.